The complexities of Hush. In 2002, Batman's world was thrown into chaos by a new villain wrapped in bandages, moving through Gotham like a phantom. He called himself Hush and the Batman. Hush storyline became one of the most talked about arcs in decades. The twist? Hush was Dr. Thomas Elliot, Bruce Wayne's childhood friend. But the mystery didn't stop at the unmasking. Elliot's story runs deeper than a simple grudge. As kids, Bruce and Tommy were supposed to be inseparable, yet Tommy carried a bitterness that grew into obsession. Unlike Bruce, he wanted his parents gone. When his plan to kill them failed, he grew to despise Bruce, the boy who inherited fortune and tragedy in the same night. That resentment shaped his vendetta, turning him into a surgeon with surgical precision in both the operating room and Gotham's underworld. The complexity comes in how the story blurs who's really in control. Throughout Hush, it looks like Elliot masterminded everything, bringing together villains like Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and even Superman under mind control. But the Riddler was lurking in the background, pulling strings and revealing he knew Batman's identity all along. Was Hush the true architect, or was he just another pawn in Gotham's endless chess match? Since then, DC has kept Hush's role deliberately slippery. Sometimes he's a major player, carving his way into Gotham's elite circles. Other times, he fades back into obscurity, his motivations rewritten or left hanging. Fans are left questioning whether Elliot is one of Batman's great rivals or just another mask in Gotham's gallery of shadows. The Hangman. After The Long Halloween left Gotham scarred, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale followed it up with Dark Victory, a story that added another layer of mystery and another masked killer stalking the city. This time, the murderer was called the Hangman. Their pattern was grim. Each victim was a Gotham police officer, each left hanging with a noose, and each body came with a riddle-like note attached. What made the Hangman killings different was how personal they felt. The Long Halloween targeted mobsters, but this new spree struck at Gotham's law enforcement, exposing just how fragile the city's institutions were. It rattled the police department, strained Batman's already tense relationship with Commissioner Gordon, and pushed Harvey Dent, now Two-Face, further down his twisted path. By the time the story unfolded, suspects circled everywhere. Mob families, corrupt cops, even Two-Face himself. The reveal eventually pointed towards Sofia Gigante, Carmine Falcone's daughter, seeking revenge and control after her family's collapse. But Loeb left behind enough inconsistencies and unanswered threads that fans still debate how much of the truth ever made it onto the page. Were all the murders really hers? Did the notes tie perfectly to her motive, or was someone else involved in the shadows? The story never fully closes the door. Dark Victory is also remembered for another reason. It introduced Dick Grayson into Batman's world, giving readers the origin of Robin. In a way, the Hangman case was the bridge between Batman's grim solo crusade and the birth of the Bat family. The other holiday killer. Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's The Long Halloween is one of Batman's most iconic detective stories, but it also leaves behind one of Gotham's biggest question marks. The case centered on the holiday killer, a murderer who struck only on holidays, leaving trinkets behind at the crime scenes. At first glance, the culprit seemed obvious. Alberto Falcone, son of crime lord Carmine Falcone, who confessed to being Holiday, except the story refuses to tie things up neatly. By the end, Alberto takes credit for the killing, but in the final chapter, Gilda Dent delivers a chilling monologue. She implies she committed at least the early murders herself, claiming she did it to give her husband, Harvey, a chance to be free of Carmine Falcone's influence and become something more. Readers are left to piece together which killings were hers, which belonged to Alberto, and whether some may never have been solved at all. The brilliance of Loeb's writing is that the ambiguity isn't an accident. The Long Halloween is less about solving a case and more about showing how Gotham corrupts everyone who touches it. Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face, Falcone's empire collapses, and Batman himself is left with no clean answers. Was Gilda confessing out of guilt, or did she really carry out those murders? Did Alberto pad his confession to claim infamy, or was he always the true Holiday? The comic leaves it deliberately open. That unresolved ending is why the story has stuck with fans for decades. Instead of giving Batman a victory, it forces him and the reader to accept that sometimes Gotham's greatest mysteries don't end with certainty. The Holiday killer may have been caught, but the question of who truly started the bloodshed still hangs over Gotham like smoke from a crime scene. The unsolved riddle. For years, Edward Nygma has taunted Gotham with elaborate puzzles, traps, and games. But in Batman, the Riddler, the Riddle Factory, and later, the Riddler, the riddle of the Sphinx arcs, his obsession evolved into something more dangerous, the idea of a final riddle, one so complex that even Batman might not crack it. That idea reached its peak in Batman, the last Riddler story, a one-shot that left fans arguing about whether the world's greatest detective actually lost. In the comic, Riddler designs what he claims is the ultimate enigma, a puzzle that would prove once and for all all who is truly the smartest man in Gotham. The catch is that the solution is never revealed on the page. Batman works at it, readers try to decode it, but the final answer stays hidden. That silence turned the story into something bigger than just another Batman victory. It created a lingering question. Did Batman solve it and keep it quiet? Or was this the one time he actually failed? Writers have often used Riddler as a mirror for Bruce's mind. Two obsessive thinkers driven by compulsion. Leaving this riddle unsolved wasn't a narrative slip. It was deliberate. It planted doubt, turning a gimmick villain into a figure capable of pushing Batman to his absolute limit. Fans still debate the logic of the riddle, posting theories and supposed solutions decades later, but DC has never stepped in to confirm anything. The Three Jokers. When Geoff Johns launched Batman, Three Jokers in 2020, it was a bomb dropped on decades of Joker lore. The setup came years earlier during Darkseid War, when the Mobius chair told Batman that there wasn't one Joker, there were three. That reveal sat in readers' minds for years, and when the series finally dropped, it didn't make things clearer. It only raised more questions. The story introduced three distinct figures: the criminal, modeled after the original 1940s gangster-style Joker; the clown, the Silver Age prankster with a taste for chaos; and the comedian, the sadistic figure inspired by The Killing Joke. Together, they carried out murders, psychological games, and a twisted plan to create the perfect Joker by reshaping victims. For fans, it cracked open the biggest mystery. Were these three different men, or simply phases of the same monster over time? The series never gave a clean answer. Batman claims he always knew the Joker's identity, but he keeps it to himself. Jason Todd and Barbara Gordon wrestle with their trauma, but they don't get closure either. Even by the finale, when two Jokers remain and one is eliminated, the lines blur. Was it metaphor? Continuity trick? Or a genuine revelation that Gotham had been terrorized by multiple people under the same name all along? Johns himself has said the mystery was never meant to solve the Joker. It was meant to deepen him. By splitting Joker into three, the character became more myth than man, a legend who could never be nailed down to one face or one past. And in the end, DC kept the tradition alive. Even after an entire series, readers walked away with more questions than answers. Lincoln March/Thomas Wayne Jr. When Scott Snyder introduced the Court of Owls in 2011, Batman fans got more than a new secret society. They got one of the wildest mysteries in modern Gotham lore, Lincoln March. A charismatic Gotham politician, March positioned himself as an ally to Bruce Wayne before, revealing his true hand. He claimed he was more than just a rival. He said he was Bruce's long-lost brother, Thomas Wayne Jr. The claim landed like a bomb. According to March, the Waynes had another son, hidden away after a childhood accident, raised in secrecy, and ultimately molded by the Court of Owls into a weapon against Gotham's protector. If true, it meant Bruce wasn't fighting a stranger. He was battling his own blood, a twisted reflection shaped by the city's corruption. But Snyder never confirmed it outright. Batman himself rejected the idea, but the evidence wasn't cleanly dismissed. Hospital records, court documents, and March's own uncanny knowledge of the Wayne legacy left a cloud of uncertainty hanging over the reveal. Readers were left questioning, was this another manipulation by the court, or had Gotham been keeping the darkest family secret of all? Since then, DC has kept March's identity deliberately vague. In later appearances, he doubles down on the claim, styling himself as the true heir to Gotham while Bruce fights to hold on to his city. Yet no comic has ever put a definitive stamp on whether Lincoln March really is Thomas Wayne Jr. or just a dangerous imposter with a talent for psychological warfare. The Joker's real name. For more than 80 years, the biggest mystery in Gotham hasn't been who killed the Waynes, it's who the Joker really is. From his first appearance in 1940, the Clown Prince of Crime has been chaos incarnate, a villain without an origin readers could pin down. DC has played into that for decades, teasing clues, rewriting possibilities, but never locking the door. One of the earliest stories, The Killing Joke by Alan Moore, gave fans a version. A failed comedian who turned to crime, fell into a vat of chemicals, and came out with a permanent smile. But even in that comic, Joker admits his past is unreliable. His line summed it up. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. The mystery took a sharp turn in Geoff Johns' Justice League, Darkseid War. When Batman sat on the Mobius chair, a cosmic device that answers any question, he asked the ultimate. 1. What's the Joker's real name? The chair gave him an answer, but DC didn't share it with readers. All we know is Batman looked shaken, muttering, "That's impossible." Years later, Batman, Three Jokers expanded on that reveal. Instead of one Joker, there were three: the criminal, the clown, and the comedian. They operated across decades, suggesting Joker's history was fractured. Even then, DC didn't solve the riddle. Was the real Joker among them, or was the truth that there never was just one? Writers have admitted the mystery is intentional. Once the Joker has a name, he becomes a man. And the power of the character has always been that he's unknowable. His chaos works because it doesn't have an origin story you can file away. That's why the question of his real name remains the most famous unsolved mystery in Gotham, a riddle DC may never dare answer. The death of the Flying Graysons. Long before Robin ever wore a mask, Dick Grayson's story began with a scream under the big top. The Flying Graysons were Gotham's star acrobat family, known for their death-defying trapeze act in Haley's Circus. But in every telling, one night ends the act forever. High above the crowd, the ropes snapped, and Dick's parents fell to their deaths while the audience watched in horror. The official culprit across most versions is mobster Tony Zuko. He wanted protection money from the circus owner, and when he didn't get it, he tampered with the trapeze rigging. Dick saw everything. The man who murdered his family, the crime that set his life on a new path. It mirrors Bruce in a cruel way, both children forged by sudden violence. But as the decades passed, the mystery around the Graysons' deaths grew more tangled. Some continuities have suggested Zuko wasn't acting alone. In the New 52, Haley's Circus was tied directly to the Court of Owls, with hints that Dick's family may have been marked for recruitment into their army of Talons. Other retellings have hinted at rival crime families or deeper mob politics, turning what looked like a single act of extortion into a possible conspiracy. Even Zuko himself has shifted depending on the story. Sometimes he's a ruthless gangster, other times he's portrayed with shades of remorse. In Batman, the animated series, he was still active years later, forcing Dick to confront his past head-on. In Rebirth, Dick even ends up protecting Zuko's daughter, blurring the line between justice and revenge. The death of the Flying Graysons has never been rewritten away, but the details around it keep evolving. Was it just one mobster's cruelty, or a thread connected to Gotham's larger secret wars? The circus curtain fell that night, but the mystery of who truly pulled the ropes has never fully closed. Haley's Circus secrets. On the surface, Haley's Circus looks like a colorful traveling show. Acrobats, clowns, and daredevils under the spotlight. But peel back the curtain, and it's one of Gotham's most mysterious institutions. From Dick Grayson's tragic origin to its hidden ties with secret societies, Haley's Circus is less carnival fun and more a stage where Gotham's darkest stories play out. The circus was where Dick's parents, the Flying Graysons, performed their final act, but the story didn't end with their fall. In Scott Snyder's Court of Owls saga, Haley's Circus was revealed to be a recruitment ground. Behind the trapeze acts and animal shows, it funneled young performers into the court's brutal training program, creating the Talons, undead assassins who served Gotham's secret rulers for centuries. That twist recast the circus in an entirely new light. Was Dick Grayson always destined to become a weapon of Gotham's elite? Did his family's death remove him from one path only to push him into another under Batman? Those questions remain dangling, since DC never closed the book on how deep the circus's involvement with the court really went. Beyond the Owls, Haley's Circus holds other shadows. In different continuities, the circus has connections to Gotham's underworld, mobsters using it as a front for smuggling, or ties to assassins moving under the radar. Even in Nightwing, Rebirth, Dick's return to the circus stirred up questions about its past loyalties, suggesting that Haley's legacy might never be clean. The circus is both an origin story and an open case file. Every time the spotlight hits the tent, there's the sense that something more sinister is waiting in the dark. Gotham may have countless mysteries, but few are wrapped in as much tragedy and hidden history as Haley's Circus, a place where the show never really ends. Joker's knowledge of Bruce's identity. Few mysteries in Gotham are as maddening as this one. Does the Joker actually know Batman is Bruce Wayne? Over the years, the comics have dangled hints, dropped teases, and then yanked the curtain back just enough to keep fans guessing. The first serious indication came in the 1990s during Batman Going Sane. In that story, Joker believes he's finally killed Batman, so he retires into a normal life under another name. When Bruce returns, Joker snaps back instantly, like his entire existence only makes sense with Batman alive. It wasn't confirmation of knowledge, but it planted the idea that Joker understood Bruce and Batman weren't separate, they were one obsession. Then came Death of the Family in 2012. Joker terrorized the Bat family with the claim that he knew all their identities, yet he never once addressed Bruce directly by name. The story left the impression that Joker may know but doesn't care. To him, Bruce Wayne is irrelevant. The mask is the real man. The tension spiked again in Endgame. Joker fought like someone who had been part of Bruce's world far longer than anyone realized, speaking with familiarity that suggested personal knowledge. Still, he avoided saying the name, almost like acknowledging Bruce would ruin the joke. Writers have leaned into that ambiguity. Scott Snyder has said the Joker could easily know Bruce's name, but chooses not to use it, because it doesn't fit his relationship with Batman. To Joker, Bruce Wayne is boring. The billionaire playboy means nothing. Batman is the game, and the game is the obsession. The result? Decades of storytelling where Joker's silence is as powerful as any confession. Whether he knows or not is less important than the fact that he never says it. That unspoken mystery keeps the power dynamic alive. One of Gotham's most twisted inside jokes. The fate of Joe Chill. For decades, the gunman who pulled the trigger in Crime Alley has haunted Batman's mythos. His name is Joe Chill, and depending on which comic you pick up, his story ends in a completely different place. In the early Golden Age tales, Chill was nothing more than a random mugger. But by the late 1940s, writers decided Bruce deserved a confrontation. In Batman number 47, 1948, Batman actually tracked Chill down. When Bruce revealed he was the child from the alley, Chill panicked and confessed to his fellow criminals that he created Batman. They didn't take it well. They killed Chill on the spot before Bruce could even make a choice. Later stories refused to lock that down. In Batman, Year 2 by Mike W. Barr, Chill lived longer. There, Bruce was forced into the unthinkable, teaming up with the very man who murdered his parents to battle Gotham's Reaper. That arc left readers questioning how Batman could uphold his code with Chill standing right beside him. Eventually, Chill was gunned down, but the ambiguity of Bruce's forgiveness lingered. Other continuities erased Chill altogether. Post-Crisis, writers leaned back into the idea that the Wayne murders were a faceless crime. No closure, no culprit in custody. In Batman Begins 2005, Chill is put on trial, only to be assassinated by mobsters before Bruce can even confront him. Modern comics like Batman, The Brave, and The Bold and Zero Hour have played with alternate takes where Chill survives, confesses, or dies differently. But DC has never kept one version canon for long. The open question of Joe Chill's fate is almost the point. Did Bruce ever get justice? Or was it stolen from him by history, the mob, or even fate itself? Each telling twists the knife in a new way. He couldn't save Alfred. In 2019's City of Bane storyline by Tom King, Batman faced one of the darkest chapters of his life, and one that left behind a mystery no detective skills could solve. For decades, Alfred Pennyworth had been the constant presence at Wayne Manor, the guardian who patched Bruce up, gave him counsel, and kept the mission alive. That ended when Bane tightened his grip on Gotham. During the arc, Bane made an unthinkable move. To break Batman's spirit, he ordered the execution of Alfred while Damian Wayne was forced to watch. The act was brutal, final, and most importantly, it happened when Bruce wasn't there. For a character defined by his vow to always protect his family, the absence cut deeper than the act itself. The mystery isn't about who killed Alfred. That was Bane's order carried out by his forces. The lingering question is whether Bruce could have prevented it. Fans debated whether his choices in the arc, his distractions, and his reliance on strategy left Alfred exposed. Even within the Bat family, the guilt hung heavy. Damian blamed himself. Bruce carried the weight, and the loss shattered their unity. What makes Alfred's death such an unresolved wound is that DC treated it as permanent for years. No Lazarus Pit rescue, no sudden return. The void of Alfred became a defining part of Bruce's modern story. Even when DC eventually brought him back in later continuity, the emotional scar of City of Bane remained untouched. The unsolved part is personal. How does Batman reconcile being absent in the one moment Alfred needed him most? It's a question without a clean answer, an open case in Bruce's heart. Gotham is full of mysteries, but this one doesn't hinge on evidence or suspects. It's about guilt, and that's a crime Batman can never solve. The puzzle of Onomatopoeia. When Kevin Smith introduced Onomatopoeia in Green Arrow 2002, he instantly stood out. A serial killer who targeted non-powered vigilantes, he was defined by one eerie quirk. He only spoke in sound effects. Gunshots, blades cutting, even the snap of a neck. He would mimic the sound instead of saying a word. Years later, Smith brought him into Gotham for Batman, the Widening Gyre, and that's where the mystery deepened. The story set Onomatopoeia against Batman in a way that felt unlike any other rogue. He infiltrated Gotham's streets, built a disguise as an ordinary citizen, and slowly gained Bruce's trust under the name Baphomet. As Batman revealed more of himself, even exposing his identity to this supposed ally, the truth finally came out. Baphomet unmasked as Onomatopoeia, stabbing Batman's girlfriend Silver St. Cloud in a shocking cliffhanger. And then, nothing. The sequel series, Batman Bellicosity, which was supposed to resolve the storyline, never came out. To this day, the fate of Silver, Batman's response, and Onomatopoeia's larger motives remain unanswered. Was he working for someone bigger? Was he part of Gotham's larger network of conspiracies? Or was he simply another predator, hunting capes for sport? The curtain dropped before readers got an answer. That's what makes Onomatopoeia such an enduring puzzle. Unlike Joker or Riddler, his story isn't layered with decades of lore. He's a blank slate with one haunting pattern, killing heroes, and walking away without explanation. And because his Batman arc was left unfinished, his presence feels like a jagged tear in Gotham's continuity. Fans still ask whether Kevin Smith will ever return to finish it. The Wayne Murders Conspiracy. Every Batman story starts with the same alley, the same gunshots, and the same pearls scattering across wet pavement. But here's the catch. For all the times it's been retold, the Wayne murders have never truly been solved. The official version? A mugger named Joe Chill robbed Thomas and Martha Wayne and left Bruce an orphan. Clean and simple. Except DC hasn't kept it that simple. Over the decades, the story has twisted into something bigger than one man with a gun. In Batman Year 2, Chill was a hired gun, tangled up with Gotham's underworld. In Earth 1, the murder smelled like a conspiracy involving corrupt politicians and mob bosses. And in Scott Snyder's Court of Owls arc, the shadows of Gotham's secret society were hinted to be involved, rewriting history with talons at the edges of Crime Alley. Each retelling muddies the waters. Was it random crime or the first chess move in Gotham's endless corruption? The mystery matters because it shapes Bruce Wayne himself. If his parents were victims of random violence, his crusade is about fixing the system that allows crime to thrive. But if their deaths were part of a conspiracy, then Batman isn't just fighting crime. He's trapped in a generational war against Gotham itself. That question has never been settled, and DC seems to keep it that way on purpose. The lost years of Bruce Wayne's training. Before Bruce Wayne ever put on the cape and cowl, he disappeared from Gotham for years, traveling the world to prepare himself for war. Everyone knows he returned as Batman, but what exactly happened during that time has never been fully mapped out. That gap, often called the lost years, remains one of the great unsolved pieces of his mythos. Comics have given glimpses. In Dennis O'Neill's The Man Who Falls, Bruce trained across continents, learning martial arts, science, and detective skills from masters in their fields. Frank Miller's Batman. Year 1 shows him back in Gotham, already honing his craft after years away, but it skips over the details of where and with whom he trained. Grant Morrison's Batman and Son hinted at more esoteric teachers, including time with Zatara the Magician, which explains Bruce's surprising knowledge of stagecraft and escape artistry. Then there are the darker threads. Stories like Batman Begins popularize the idea of Bruce's training with the League of Shadows under Aray's Al Ghul, something that entered the comics in different forms. Other runs have tied him to hidden monasteries, intelligence agencies, and even secretive martial arts masters who vanish after a single arc. Each writer adds a piece, but none put together the full picture. That lack of clarity is deliberate. By keeping the timeline fractured, DC allows Batman to remain larger than life. Did he spend 10 years abroad? 15? Was his training a structured path or a wandering odyssey? Fans can only speculate. The lost years give Batman an almost mythical edge. He's a figure shaped by mysteries we're never allowed to fully see, and as long as those years stay hidden, the legend of Batman keeps its greatest secret intact. And that's it. Now to you, if you had the chance to unlock just one of these mysteries forever, the Joker's true name, the fate of Joe Chill, or the Court of Owls' role in the Wayne murders, which secret would you choose to finally uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell.